Welcome to part 43 of Neo and Jiho. What's a life lesson that stands out to you from this section? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for sharing. Everything has been handled, Insu said, his voice low but confident. Neo's relatives in Botswana, the passports, the visas, the hotel arrangements, all cleared. They'll stay at the Riverside Grand. It's private, discreet, and close to the villa. Transportation from the airport is arranged, too. Jiho leaned back in his chair, his shoulders easing only slightly. You've done well. Thank you. Insu didn't smile, but his eyes softened. You don't need to thank me, Hyung. This is family. He hesitated before pulling out a second envelope, sliding it carefully across the desk. Jiho frowned, his gaze sharpening. What's this? Insu exhaled. The woman at the grave. Jiho's hand froze before it touched the envelope. His throat tightened as he slowly pulled it closer, unfolding the paper within. The photograph inside was grainy but clear enough. A woman, head bowed, dark hair tied back, placing flowers at his father's grave. Jiho's eyes locked on her face. Something in him twisted violently. For years he had tried to banish this image, the possibility of her, but now it was here, undeniable. His breath hitched. He pressed his lips together, fighting the storm rising inside him. Where did you get this? Jiho asked, his voice low, strained. I traced the feeds near the cemetery, Insu replied. I thought you should see it yourself. Jiho's fingers trembled slightly against the photo. His chest tightened. For the briefest moment, he looked like a boy again. A boy who had once waited by doors that never opened. He said nothing more. He only folded the paper back into the envelope and set it aside, his face unreadable. Insu studied him carefully, but chose not to press. Instead, he stood, his voice gentler now. Hyung, rest. You have carried enough today. I'll check in with you tomorrow. Jiho gave a faint nod, his jaw tense. Thank you, Insu. With that, Insu left the study, his footsteps soft against the polished floor. But instead of heading straight out, he turned quietly toward the east wing, toward Tumi's room. Jiho sat alone for several long minutes, staring at the envelope on the desk. His palm pressed hard against his chest as though he could steady the storm beneath his ribs. Jiho's study had been left behind. The papers and lists were still spread across his desk, but he no longer had the strength to look at them. Now he was in their bedroom, sitting at the edge of the bed, his shirt slightly undone at the collar, his head bowed, his chest still heavy with the residue of earlier hours. The image of the fresh flowers at the grave flickered through his mind again and again, uninvited, unwanted. He pressed his palm against his chest as though he could push the feeling away. But feelings never obey force. They linger until they are spoken, shared, or healed. Neo watched him silently from the bed, her eyes soft, her expression steady. She didn't rush him. She didn't ask right away. She simply shifted closer, her hand brushing lightly against his back, her presence alone speaking louder than words could. Jiho exhaled slowly. Why does it still feel heavy? His voice was low, almost a whisper. I told myself I had moved on. I told myself grandmother's words were enough, but still... He trailed off, pressing harder against his chest. Neo slid her hand down his arm until her fingers laced with his. She pulled gently, guiding him to lean back against the pillows. Because, Jiho, she said softly, you've never really told the whole story. Not even to yourself. You've been carrying it like a stone in your chest, and stones don't leave just because you say, go. They leave when you put them down. His eyes lifted to hers, pained, searching. And how do I put them down? She smiled faintly. The kind of smile that came not from amusement, but from deep knowing. Sometimes, you don't need to know how. You just need someone to remind you where you are standing. You are not in that graveyard. You are not that little boy crying in the dark anymore. You are here, with me, with us. She took his hand and guided it gently to rest over her stomach. The movement caught him, pulling him back into the present. His palm lay over the quiet curve of her belly, where their unborn children grew unseen but alive, strong in their smallness. These two are waiting for you, she whispered, her voice steady, unshaken. They need their father, not the man crushed by yesterday, but the man who chooses today. Jiho, they can't survive if the father in you isn't here. Not the shell, not the name. The father, you. His throat tightened, his breath shook. Tears pricked his eyes before he could stop them. He blinked them away, but they fell anyway, tracing slow lines down his cheeks. He tried to speak, but no words came. Only the press of his hand against her stomach. The desperate need to hold on to something real. Neo reached up, brushing the tears from his face with her thumb. "Look at me," she whispered. He did. And in that moment, he saw her. Not just the woman who loved him, but the woman who could see through him. Her eyes didn't carry pity. They carried strength, certainty, the kind of certainty he had always longed for. "Jiho," she said, her voice firmer now, "you've spent your life staring at one closed door, asking why, demanding an answer. But maybe what you wanted was never what you needed. Maybe if she had stayed, you wouldn't have become the man you are today. Think of it. Would grandmother have raised you? Would you have learned strength through silence? Would you have learned compassion through absence? Would you have fought for your own future the way you did?" He swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his ears. "I never thought of it that way," he admitted, his voice breaking. Neo leaned closer, pressing her forehead to his. "Of course you didn't. Because pain doesn't let us think that way. Pain makes us stare at the wound. But sometimes God doesn't take away what we wanted. He gives us what we needed. And what you needed was not answers. What you needed was to grow into the man who could sit here now, with me, with our children on the way, the man who could love better, because he knows what it means to hurt." Her words fell into him like drops of water on dry ground. Each one seeped deeper, softening, healing. He closed his eyes, letting them sink in. A trembling laugh escaped his lips, almost bitter, almost amused. "And you say, if she had stayed, maybe I would have married Yura?" Neo grinned, teasing him now, lightening the air. "Maybe. Who knows? Life could have been different." Jiho's eyes flew open. He shook his head so fast, Neo burst out laughing. "No, don't even say that. Never." Neo laughed harder, her shoulders shaking, her hand over her mouth. "Oh, Jiho, you should see your face right now." He caught her waist suddenly, pulling her closer. "I mean it. Don't even joke. I would never, never imagine that." She leaned back, her laughter still spilling. "Relax. I'm only teasing." But he didn't let go. His eyes, though playful, held a raw intensity. "You don't understand. Even if I had lived another life, even if I had been born in another time, I would have found you. I would have searched until I did. Whoever else might have had you, I would have taken you away from them. You are mine, Neo. Always." Her laughter softened into a tender smile. Tears rose in her eyes now, not from sorrow but from the overwhelming depth of his words. "Jiho," he brushed her cheek with his thumb, his hand trembling but steady. "I mean it. This life, with you, with them," his hand pressed again against her stomach, "is the life I want. I don't need to imagine another." Neo's tears spilled freely, and he caught them with his lips, kissing them away. "Then don't," she whispered. "Don't imagine another life. Live this one. Live it fully. With me. With them. With the family we are building." Jiho exhaled deeply, his chest finally loosening. The sweat that had clung to him earlier was gone, his breathing slower, steadier. He felt as if something had shifted inside him, as if the wound that had bled silently for years had finally found a hand to press against it, not to hide it, but to heal it. They lay back against the pillows, their bodies tangled together, their laughter slowly fading into quiet warmth. Jiho tilted his head, studying her face, the curve of her lips, the softness of her tears, the strength in her eyes. "How do you do this?" he asked softly. "How do you take what has crushed me for years and make it feel smaller?" Neo brushed his hair back gently. "Because I don't look at the wound. I look at you, and I know the man you are today is stronger than the boy who was hurt. I know you don't need answers from yesterday. You need reasons to stay in today. And Jiho, today is full. Look at us. He closed his eyes, pressing his forehead against hers. You're right. I see it now. I've been holding on to a closed door when everything I ever needed was standing right here. She smiled. Exactly. Sometimes we stare at the closed door for so long we forget to see the open one. But Jiho, the open door is brighter, it's wider, and it leads here. His chest tightened again, but this time not from panic, this time from relief, from love so deep it made him tremble. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her as though she were the only anchor left in the world. And as they lay together, whispering small jokes, teasing each other about Yura, tickling each other until their laughter filled the room again, Jiho realized something he had never believed before. His heart could be reset. His mind could be healed. All it took was the right voice, the right love, at the right time. They lay facing each other in the hush that comes after a long day, the kind of quiet that isn't empty at all, but warm and full. The bedside lamp was low. Outside, the city breathed. Inside, it was just them. Jiho slid closer until his forehead touched Neo's. He didn't rush. He simply arrived, like a tide coming in, then stopped and looked. He studied her face the way he studied a star chart. Careful, intent, memorizing. The tiny crease near her left eye when she smiled. The way her lashes curved. The soft warmth at the corner of her lips where laughter still lingered from earlier. He traced the line of her cheek with one knuckle, slow and reverent, as if he were reading a prayer written on skin. Neo tried to tease him out of the silence. "You're staring," she whispered. "I'm collecting proof," he murmured. "Proof of what?" "That this is real. That I get to love you in the morning, and at night, and then again in the morning." His voice lowered, playful now. "And again after breakfast, and after lunch, and after dinner. In fact," Neo laughed, already sensing the joke. "Careful." "In fact," he went on, eyes bright, "if it were allowed, I'd marry you more than 10 times, every day. We'd hold a little wedding at sunrise, another at noon, one at sunset, and then a secret one at midnight, just to be sure." Neo pretended to think. "Every day? That would mean we'd live at the island forever. Rehearsal, vows, cake, repeat. I'd run out of shoes. I'll buy you shoes. I'd run out of lipstick. I'll buy the factory. I'd run out of energy," she said, but she was smiling. "I'll carry you," he answered, like a promise. That night, as sleep finally pulled them under, Jiho knew he would never see his past the same way again. Tumi had just set her phone down when a soft knock came. "Come," she said. Insu slipped in, smiling like he'd been holding his breath all day. "I missed you," he blurted, half laughing at himself. "I didn't call. I was racing to finish the list and hotel holds. But I'm done. Come with me? I want to take you home. I have something for you." She blinked. "I haven't told Neo." "Send her a message," he said gently. "Tell her you're with me. She'll smile." Tumi typed fast. "Sis, I'm going with Insu to his place. Back in the morning. Love you." A reply bubbled up almost at once. "Go. Be safe. Tell him I said thank you again for everything." Tumi showed him the screen. He nodded, relieved. "Let's go." They walked out together. The corridor was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after a long, full day. In the garage, Insu opened the passenger door like it was a little ceremony. Tumi slid in. He rounded to the driver's side, and they eased into the soft city night. "Which dress color?" he asked after a block, eyes on the road but voice bright. "You're going to destroy me either way, but I need to prepare. I'm excited about your look, about Neo's day, about your family coming." "That part," Tumi exhaled. "Thank you for making it possible." "For you, it's simple," he said. "We move mountains." "Don't say mountains," she grinned. "Say airport lines." He lifted a hand. "Then I will move airport lines." They drove past a bright street food lane, steam rising from tteokbokki pans, vendors calling softly. Tumi pressed a palm to the window. Smells too good. When they got to his place, Insu swept Tumi off her feet out of nowhere. She giggled, hiding her face in her curly hair as she clung to him. He laughed, saying he couldn't see the door, and they both chuckled. Just then, the door to his villa opened on its own. He had made quite a few changes in the last few weeks. Tumi noticed and asked, "Did you do something different here?" He smiled and replied, "Yeah, all of this, and so much more." Once they stepped inside, he set her down and leaned in closer, asking, "How do you do it, Tumi, my love?" He was so close now that she could feel his warmth and the intensity of his gaze. Tumi was taken aback, asking, "Do what?" "Get into my mind, my heart, and my veins. Even when I'm away for work, you're still a part of me." "It's the same for me, Insu," she said, and the way she said his name made him feel even more drawn to her. He took her hand and led her to the spot where he had a special surprise waiting for her. On the coffee table sat a wrapped box, midnight envelope on top, gold letters, "To me." She stopped. "You planned this?" "I tried," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Come sit." They took the couch. He pushed the box toward her, then pointed at the envelope. "Read that first?" She opened it. Inside was a card, weighty and simple, and a slim black holder with a shopping card. The note was handwritten. "Tumi, this card is for anything you want for the wedding week. Hair, shoes, fabric, a little gift for a cousin, anything that makes you feel like yourself. You don't need it to shine, but I want your path to be soft." Her throat tightened. "Insu!" "There's more," he said, voice quiet. She unwrapped the box. White tissue. A smaller case. Inside, a jewelry set. A fine chain with a small pendant shaped like a leaf vein and matching studs. Delicate, not loud. The kind of beauty you notice second, then can't stop seeing. She touched the pendant with one finger. "It's gentle." "Like you," he said. "It sits close, not heavy." "There's a second note," he admitted, eyes suddenly shy. "Under the tray." She lifted the velvet and found it. Folded cream paper, his handwriting neat and careful. She read silently. As she did, her smile changed shape, from surprise to warmth to that look people get when they feel seen. "What did you write?" she asked, even though she knew he'd let her keep it private. "That I'm proud of you," he said simply, "that you carry light into rooms, that I want to stand next to you and make things easier, not harder, that I'm not asking for speed, just trust, and that I'm excited to meet your uncles, even if they glare at me." "They will," she laughed softly. "They glare with love." "Then I'll pass." He hesitated. "May I?" He gestured to the necklace. "Please." He stood and came behind her, hands steady as he lifted her curls and clasped the chain. The pendant fell into place. When she looked up into the window's reflection, it caught one tiny line of light and made it dance. "It's perfect," she said. "Yes," he agreed, not looking at the necklace. They sat again, close now, without thinking. He reached for the card holder. "Use this for everything," he said. "Don't ask me first. Just do it. If you want to buy a pair of shoes for an auntie or a silk scarf for Neo or 100 hairpins for little cousins, do it." She smiled. "I'll start small." "Or start big," he said. "Your choice." "Thank you," she said again, softer this time. "For the card, the letter, the necklace, the care." He put a hand over his heart. "Anything for you." She surprised him with a quick kiss, light, sure, a punctuation mark after a page of quiet sentences. Back at home, after Neo wished Jiho's grandmother a good night, she headed to the study looking for Jiho. When she didn't find him there, she decided to check the bedroom instead. The dawn broke softly over the Han estate. Jiho had woken earlier than Neo. He had slipped quietly from their bed, careful not to disturb her. For a moment, standing by the bedroom door, he had watched her sleeping form, her hand curved protectively over her stomach. Peace had washed over him at that sight, a peace he clung to as he padded barefoot down the quiet hallway toward his study. When he entered, the familiar scent of leather and old books wrapped around him. The desk lamp had been left off. Instead, he relied on the pale light of morning streaming in. With a steadying breath, Jiho slid open the drawer. He pulled out the photo carefully, as though it were something fragile that might crumble at his touch. His mother. The woman he had convinced himself for years he would never see again, not even in memory. And yet, there she was. But something had changed overnight. The moment Neo had taken his trembling hands into hers, the moment she had whispered perspective into his heart, the wound inside him had shifted. He no longer looked at the face in the photograph and felt only the crushing weight of abandonment. Instead, he felt a strange lightness. Jiho sat down slowly at his desk, holding the frame upright in both hands. He let himself study her features, the tilt of her brow, the softness in her eyes, the faint lines of her mouth. For the first time, he thought not of the pain of her leaving, but of the road her absence had forced him to walk. Perhaps, as Neo had said, it had been a blessing in disguise. Had she stayed, he might have grown into a different man, under a different hand, shaped by different choices. But her absence had pressed his grandmother into the center of his world, and his grandmother had raised him into the man who could stand here today, strong enough to love, strong enough to be a father, strong enough to marry Neo. A soft smile touched his lips. He whispered under his breath, as if speaking directly to the woman in the photo. "Thank you. Even if it was through leaving, you led me here." The heaviness was gone. The panic that had clawed at his chest the night before was replaced by stillness. His heartbeat was steady. His hands no longer shook. With slow care, Jiho stood and opened a drawer lined with velvet for keepsakes. Inside were a few things: his father's watch, an old fountain pen, a folded letter from his grandmother, written when he had turned 18. He placed the framed photograph beside them, positioning it with deliberate respect. Not hidden in shame, not buried in denial, but placed where it belonged, among the fragments of his story. His hand lingered on the frame for a moment longer. Then he closed the drawer gently, sealing the chapter not with anger, but with peace. Jiho left the study and stepped into the long hallway. He found his grandmother already awake, sitting upright in her armchair near the end of the hallway, a silk shawl wrapped around her shoulders. A maid stood nearby, pouring tea into a delicate porcelain cup. Jiho paused for a moment to admire her strength, the woman who had been both grandmother and mother to him. "Halmione," he greeted softly as he approached. She turned, her sharp eyes immediately softening at the sight of him. "Jiho, you're up early." He gave a small smile. "I couldn't sleep long. My thoughts, they found a different place." She gestured for the maid to leave them, then patted the seat beside her. Jiho sat, his posture relaxed in a way she hadn't seen for days. "Does your heart tremble? Do you feel the old fear?" Jiho shook his head, surprising even himself with the firmness of his voice. "No." Grandmother's eyes glistened. She set down her teacup and reached for his hands. "So you no longer see her absence as a curse?" "I see it as part of the path," Jiho replied. His voice was steady, his eyes clear. "A painful part, yes, but one that led me here, to you, to Neo, to our children. And I am grateful." Her lips trembled, then softened into a smile of deep relief. She pulled him into her arms, hugging him tightly. For a moment, Jiho let himself be held, feeling again the way her embrace had carried him through childhood. "My son," she whispered, "you have finally made peace." "Yes, Halmione," Jiho murmured into her shoulder. "I have." By the time they descended into the dining hall, the air smelled of warm bread and fresh tea. Neo had joined them now, glowing in a simple morning dress, her hand resting protectively on her belly. She smiled at Jiho, noticing the difference in his expression immediately. "You look lighter," she teased gently. He brushed her cheek with his hand. "Because I am." Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed from the entrance. Insu and Tumi walked in together, hand in hand. Insu looked sharp even in casual wear, while Tumi's curls framed her smiling face. "Good morning," Tumi greeted warmly. "Perfect timing," Grandmother said, her voice brisk but kind. "Come, sit. The table is ready." As they settled in, the room filled with the comfortable buzz of family. Neo laughed softly at something Tumi whispered to her. Jiho sipped his tea, his chest steady. For the first time in years, he felt he could breathe freely. But his mind still held one lingering thread. Taiho. Phone call to Taiho. After breakfast, Jiho excused himself and stepped onto the balcony with his phone. He dialed quickly, and Taiho's voice answered almost instantly. "Jiho," Taiho said, calm but clipped. "Is everything well?" "Yes," Jiho replied. His tone was steady, carrying none of the panic of the night before. "Better than well, actually. I wanted you to know. I found out who it was at the grave. It was my mother." There was silence on the line. For a man like Taiho, silence spoke louder than words. When he finally responded, his voice carried shock. "That's impossible. How did you—" "Insu," Jiho said simply. "I asked him to look as well. He brought me the photo. And I knew." On the other side, Taiho closed his eyes. Relief coursed through him. Jiho had steadied himself, stronger than Taiho had dared to hope. "Then you are stronger than I imagined," Taiho said quietly. "Hold on to that strength, Jiho. You'll need it." "I will," Jiho promised. "Thank you." When he ended the call, the weight that had haunted him for decades felt finally laid to rest.